All right, this is Ryan Rutherford coming back with the Fantasy Footballaholics. I'm going to give you an update on how our draft went between me and Dustin in our money league for work, and we'll go over each pick and see where it went with my rankings and see how things panned out, see how I like my team, and I'll give you a little heads up on what I think about Dustin's team. So we start off here. First pick of the draft was Christian McCaffrey, ADP wise, which is usually what a lot of drafters that aren't fully in depth on what they want to do. They stick with ADP, and Christian McCaffrey is number one in all ADPs, so that's what got drafted. I obviously had Elliott going number one, McCaffrey going two. So this is no surprise for me here at all. So pick one, Christian McCaffrey. Pick two, Saquon Barkley. I had him three. ADP usually has him around two, so once again, ADP fall here as well. And number three was Elliott. So my order was a little bit off, but this was more my ranking. So I had Elliott 1, McCaffrey 2, Barkley 3. They had 1, 2, 3 this way. So it just went just as ADP expects. And then fourth got to Kamara. So Dustin got to this pick. Was really thinking between three players, similar as I had them, a little bit different because everyone knows on my rankings I really like Jones. I had Henry, Cook, then Kamara, and that's kind of the three he was thinking about. I was trying to push him towards Henry. He was liking Kamara, and I told him to stick with his gut, so he went with a more versatile back, more pass catching ability and run catching ability. We've had Henry in the past. So I think the main thing that took him away from Henry was the fact that we've had him a year ago, 2 years ago, both of us, and he really stood out at the end of the year. But middle of the year when we drafted him around third or fourth, he was our flex play. He didn't do really much each week to week. Wasn't really till the end of the year when we pretty much got fed up with him and didn't play him anymore that he actually broke out. And the following year he looked really good. So I was trying to push him to get Henry. He got Kamara. So these top three guys, ADP wise, I don't think there's really much of a difference. Henry's obviously the more rugged of the three. These two are both pass catchers. Cook had a better season than Kamara last year, but Kamara's done it a couple more years consistent. So most consistent is Kamara, but he just got his new contract. Didn't know that at the draft. Also didn't know how injured he was. He did get a shot into his back, so that could be an issue all year, which might be an issue. But overall, one of these three, he picked the one he liked, so I'm not going to hate on him. 5 picked Henry, 6 got Cook. So ADP-wise, both of these guys won up higher than they wanted to, so everyone's happy. 7th was Mixon. I have Mixon ranked as my 11th back off the board. But realistically, between these guys right here, Jones, Jacobs, Edwards, Chubbs, Mixon, I really don't think there's too much difference between them. We all knew going in the top 3 were there, then the next 3 were there, and then after that there was just kind of a group. So none of these picks are bad. 8, Michael Thomas. ADP-wise, this is good, but as everyone knows, I like to get running backs first and early if possible. So they got the best receiver here, so they're board best player. And then the draft got interesting. So Patrick Mahomes went first round. Getting him in the end of the second round is pretty common in a lot of these, but getting him all the way up in the first is very, very far of a stretch. His thought process is I'll have a clear advantage at quarterback every year or every week, which if he gets back to 50 touchdowns would be the case. So you'll see in the roster construction why this hurts him, but that's who he picked. So then it got to me and I got Clyde Edwards. So thought process on this draft pick. So in my rankings I had Edwards 9th. This is my 10th selection. I had Josh Jacobs over him. I had Aaron Jones over him. And what I was thinking about here was Josh Jacobs, Clyde Edwards. I figured both of these guys were going to go before my next pick. A lot of people are high on Drake, Sanders, Eckler. Mixon already went. Chris Carson, he's going to fall for sure. And then Aaron Jones, I make the gamble that he's going to fall as well. So I picked Clyde Edwards. Didn't really target him because most ADPs he goes up a lot higher than this, somewhere in this area. So when he fell to me, I debated this a long time between him, Josh Jacobs, and Aaron Jones. In the end, I picked Clyde Edwards just because I felt like I could get one of the other two coming back. And I was hoping for Aaron Jones because I really like Aaron Jones, but I was playing the gamble game thinking he's going to come back to me. So the next pick, Lamar Jackson goes, which made me really happy because it keeps the running backs on board that I like. Same thing as Mahomes. I actually like Lamar Jackson better than Mahomes because of his rushing ability, but he also has the probability of getting hurt, which makes him a little bit lower on other people's ADP. He was the #1 fantasy quarterback, and if he produces like he did last year, this pick is definitely worth more than this pick. So then Nick Chubb goes off the board. Top 10 back, got him in 12, good pick. Then he goes with Julio Jones, one of the top 5 receivers. I like to go running back, but nothing wrong with this. Miles Sanders, he needed a running back. He should have got Josh Jacobs here, in my opinion, but he went with Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders looked great at the end of last year, but it was his first year putting in some stats. So we'll see how that pans out. And then it got back to me, and Josh Jacobs was there. Josh Jacobs, I don't really like Josh Jacobs, and I have him 8th in my ADP. Most ADPs have him around 6. So then I got back to the same debate here. Hey, am I going to pick Jacobs or Jones? And even though I like Jones more, the ADP difference of both of them, meaning the overall consensus of where he's drafted, it really isn't that close. So even though I like Jones better in my rankings, I got to go with a big discrepancy in my rankings compared to other rankings, so I went with Josh Jacobs. So these are 2 players that I got here that I never get because they're targeted always higher than where I get them. Was I happy? No. I'm happy now, especially after week 1. Clyde Edwards looked good. I think I am. Back to Patrick Mahomes. I definitely thought he was going to get a running back here. Instead, he goes with the best receiver on the board for him. So now he's first 2 rounds, no running backs. You'll see later how bad that's going to hurt him. Next was Eckler, Jones, Drake, 3 of the top quarterbacks. Chris Carson I have ranked higher than Eckler, but that's just personal preference. All ADPs have Eckler way higher than Carson, so these are all good picks. Then the receivers go Tyreek Hill, and then it went to my buddy Dustin, which we kind of been drafting and talking together. Both of us like Carson in the 2nd round. He's in the end of the 2nd round, so he needs his 2 running backs just like I targeted. So he grabs the running back, even though there are DeAndre Hopkins available, and also Evans and Godwin and Galladay. So he was talking through some of these receivers here, but in the end, he wasn't really debating it. He needed to grab his 2nd running back, so he got Chris Carson. So Hopkins went off the board, then 2 of the 3 receivers, Evans and Godwin, that he was targeting. And then at this time came around, we were both discussing Travis Kelce, because Kelce usually makes it to the end of the 2nd round, so there's a really good possibility he was thinking about this guy getting him. And then 2 running backs went, Connor and Gurley, both are in my next batch here, so that's both good picks. And then right before Dustin came back up, there went Travis Kelce. But I really don't think this was that big a deal for him. He was going to get Travis Kelce, but he was talking Galladay throughout the draft. Him wanting Galladay being his 6th best, probably 6th or 7th best receiver. I think he might have went Mike Evans if Evans was available, but he definitely would have went Galladay over Godwin. So he got his guy here. So he's got 2 running backs and a receiver, which is great. That's what you want if you don't go through running backs. Then George Kittle went, so obviously this team's like, oh, they're one of the top tier tight ends, so right here, so I'm going to grab him. Then went on receivers, so as you can tell down here in my receivers area, there's a lot of this mid-tier receivers that people are going to target. So I'll scroll this down here. Still got a couple running backs up there. So Moore went. Come on. So Moore went, Thielen went, Robinson went. Thielen, Moore, Robinson. Robinson's a lot lower on my ADP, but ADP wise, he's high. DJ Moore is not as high as that, and I have him pretty low here. But Adam Thielen as well, he's pretty high. So I feel like Allen Robinson and Thielen were good picks. Moore not so much, and Robinson not so much really, because you still got a couple top tier running backs, and he decided to go with 2 receivers. So a little worrisome there for me, but ADP wise, he probably was rated higher. And then it went back to the Patrick Mahomes pick. You're getting Jonathan Taylor, as you can see from my rankings here. Jonathan Taylor's not anywhere here in this mid tier, so I mean he could even got Montgomery. He could have got a starting running back, Singletary. Yes, Zach Moss is nipping at Singletary's heels, but he is the number 1. So worst case scenario, I feel like Taylor or Singletary would drop down to what Taylor is now. Best case scenario, Singletary just stays the main back. It's kind of unknown now, but Montgomery looks like he might play week 1. There was injury questions on him, so he could have got Montgomery here. He could have got Mozart here. Could have got Bell here. Could have got Conner here, Johnson here. So he went having no known starting running back, goes with a possible really good starting running back. So this was a very suspicious pick in my opinion. Then it came to me. I had David Johnson on my board, ranked the highest. I've always been liking Mark Ingram in my rankings. I had him over Johnson by just a tad. So here, Johnson, Ingram. So even though I really like Ingram and what he can do, his age still concerns me. So since he got took off the board, and then Cooper was a high ADP, I don't like him as much, so a little bit lower on my board right here. So when it came to me, I mean, I debated Mark Ingram, I debated Connor, no, those guys are off, sorry. I debated Mark Ingram, he was still on. I debated David Johnson, so it was kind of between those two of me. I had Bell. He's been sounding like he's been even getting worse, so there's kind of no debate there. I'm not really on the Mozart hype just because they run a lot of backs, and Montgomery was hurt. So my plan here was Johnson and Ingram. I went Johnson just because the upside's higher than Ingram. The floor is a lot lower, but since I got 2 fairly safe backs in my thought process, rookie, not injured, or has a really low chance of being injured. Josh Jacobs, the second year, really low chance of being injured. So these are kind of like safer on the knees, safer on the body, probably won't have as much chance of being injured. So then I went with a guy with a little more upside than the other guy. So that was my thought process there. Then Montgomery and Cooper went off the board. The Montgomery or the Ingram pick was really good. Cooper pick was fine. And then I got back to this 4th rounders, and Deshaun Watson goes off the board. A little skeptical on Deshaun Watson front. I had him as my 6th rated quarterback going in the 6th round, so this is definitely a reach for him. Odell Beckham goes, great pick in my opinion. He was the highest left on my board as far as receivers, and I believe he already had some running backs, so that's a good pick. Let's just kind of get the picture going on down there, so we'll just go to one screen for now. So after Beckham goes off the board, then came back to me, and there's still a big group of receivers there. So A.J. Brown, Cooper, Smith, Green, Ridley, Lockett, Cortland, all these receivers, in my opinion, there ain't much difference between any of them. So I have them all grouped together in my rankings. And as I told you in my rankings, I'm just targeting the group. In general, I'm not targeting anyone specifically. So when there was one of my running backs still for my tiers, and especially one that I think is similar to these guys, he's young. Yeah, he's injured right now, but if his injury goes through, I'm going to have 3 running backs with a really low probability of getting hurt. Especially since I picked David Johnson, I wanted to make sure that I had 3 solid running backs throughout the season. And since Johnson's injury history is really bad in the last few years, I wanted to grab me a guy that, hey, this Johnson will play the first couple weeks, but then once Montgomery gets rolling, if Johnson does get hurt or Johnson's not playing well, then I still have my 3 main backs, which is really important to me. So then some receivers went. Kyle Murray, leaving only 2 good quarterbacks, 2 of the top quarterbacks left. Cooper Kupp went. Le'Veon Bell, Gordon, Mozart. Came back to Dustin's turn since he grabbed his first receiver. We talked about the running backs being really important, and I believe Mozart and Singletary are the only 2 left on my board this high. So since he has Singletary and we kind of know what Zach Moss is doing, he went with a back that kind of took control of the field for the Niners last year, and I believe he made a really good decision here. In hindsight, Kareem Hunt might have been in this discussion as well. I had him lower in my rankings, but he had such a good year last year. I don't see his workload reducing since he came back from suspension, so I still feel like he's a startable play, similar to like having Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara in the past. So Mozart and Hunt, could I see Hunt beating Mozart out this year? I could see that, but more likely Mozart out of these 3 is the safest bet, especially if the Niners kind of pick on with what he did in the last year. He should be the starter, so he should get at least 60%, I would assume. Juju went. I'm high on him. It's a good pick. Going Kareem Hunt. Got his 3 running backs. Having Hunt as a flex is a very good play. AJ Green here. If AJ Green doesn't get hurt, then a great pick. I think picking someone like Ridley or Lockett here would have been way better, but it's nothing wrong. He went some receivers later on. So, I mean, if AJ Green still is good, it's a good pick. Then after that, he went with Fournette, who did get signed by the Bucks right away, but the Bucks have 4 running backs they're talking about using, so picking up his flex is kind of a gamble this early in my opinion, but running backs are never too bad of a gamble because if he does become the main guy, it's a great steal in the 5th round. Then Ridley went, great pick for this guy, going 2 receivers, 3 running backs, beautiful strategy. Came back here, got Devin Singletary. I had Devin Singletary to my second tier running backs, so getting him here is a great pick. So he had 2 good running backs, 2 stud receivers, and the best tight end. Beautiful start to his draft. Came back to Dustin, and Dustin was kind of tied up here. So there's only 2 really good quarterbacks left, Russell and Dak. And then running backs, he's set at. He was debating between receiver and a quarterback here. Obviously, Tyler Lockett, very good pick. Robert Woods, Stephon Diggs, Chart, McLaurin. I think he was debating these 2 as well. But he kind of had the thought process of them getting back to him. Hindsight, I would have picked probably Tyler Lockett here. I think that would have been a better play. But he did want to get arguably the number 1 quarterback could be this year. Everyone is really high up on Prescott. Last year he led the league in passing. They went and got another weapon and receiver for him. So he's loaded on offense. It is very likely that he could be the top fantasy quarterback. So he made a kind of a risky gamble trying to get receivers after this, and we'll see later if it panned out. Came back here in need of a running back still, so he got Cam Akers. Cam Akers could become the starting running back in Rams, and if he is, this is a steal here. If not, his receiving core looks bad. He has a shared running back here, so his running back core, even though he has 3 running backs, still could be very bad. Great pick here in Tyler's got 3 good running backs, 2 solid receivers. Has a great team building here. He went Cortland Sutton, so he's probably going to be planning on playing flex receiver, which is okay. If you can get running backs in the flex, it's a lot better. But he's got 2 solid running backs. And he also has 3 good receivers, so his team comp is good. There's no bad players here. Zach Ertz here, total reach. Mark Andrews better than him. Waller better than him. I mean, you could argue Hurst and Cook better than him at this point, especially since there's another tight end in Philly and he didn't get his contract. So he's dropping ADP. So this is a reach, but if something gets changed there in the contract situation, it's not a horrible pick. He's been the number 2 tight end for the last until Kittle just took him over recently. So I think this guy kind of more went on pedigree of the past versus pedigree now. Team here, you got 1 running back who's they've been trying to push out as their starter forever, so he's still, might get 60% of the touches, so he's still not a bell cow. Two good receivers, a good quarterback, and a decent tight end. So his team build-up right now is really hurting with running backs. Here, he needs running backs bad and goes with another receiver. So he's got three good receivers, one of the top quarterbacks, and still no running backs, setting himself up for failure. Came back to me. I need receivers in a bad way. Stephon Diggs, T.Y., Keenan Allen. I really debated getting Keenan Allen here. Kind of broke my heart that I didn't. My thought process here was Mark Andrews' ADP is the third best tight end. Mark Andrews usually goes in the third round, maybe the fourth. This is the end of the fifth, and he was still there. To me, grabbing the third best tight end that some people think has the potential to be number one this year, with him being the main guy since Hurst got shipped out of Baltimore, I couldn't pass it up. I saw the receivers here. I was hoping I could get two of them. Didn't work out quite as well as I planned, so this pick might hurt me this year. But I think if I look back really at it, Montgomery or Johnson, one of these spots, I should have grabbed a receiver. But we'll see later in the draft how it went. So then Swift went. Great pick. Getting any running back that could possibly be a starter at this spot, especially when you're kind of good. There's no other running back, so obviously you should have got one up here. But after Montgomery, and he still could have grabbed Singletary, so then he probably could have got a receiver here. But Swift is similar to Jonathan Taylor, these two right here. So getting him 2 rounds later and they're in the same situation, this is a great pick. Stephon Diggs, I like him. His ADP is not this high, but I think his potential is this high. I had him roughly ranked here. Darren Waller here, he's arguably the next best tight end, so he wanted a tight end. He's got 2 receivers, 2 running backs, and a quarterback, so it's a good pick. T.Y. here, getting 3 receivers versus 3 running backs. I never liked that strategy, but T.Y. is definitely value here. So it came back to me. Thought process here. Still a lot of the receivers I like. I think one of these guys will get back to me. In hindsight, once again, I probably should have picked Keenan Allen here. So if I'd have had Keenan Allen in my lineup, my team would have looked a lot different. But I kind of got scared that quarterbacks were going early, and I didn't want to get stuck playing someone like Tom Brady or Wentz or Stafford if I could even get them. So Russ is my last top 6 round quarterback available, so I kind of got scared and backed into doing something I didn't want to do. So in hindsight, probably should have picked Keenan Allen, but we'll see how the season goes and the draft goes. Evans was next. Needed a tight end. Once again, he skipped out on running back. Don't know what he's thinking. Metcalf here, good pick for his spot, but still needs a running back. Here we go again, another smart drafter. Grabbed a 3rd running back. 3 receivers, 3 running backs. I always liked that strategy, which went back to here. And this guy was killing the draft. Running back, all solid stars. I would have loved to have this core. And then he ends up getting 3 receivers that are all good. I mean, he could start any 3 of them, and any 2 of these, and any 3 of them, and he's set for the season. And he also has a great flex play. One of them under bye, one of them get hurt. He's got another one. So he started out with a great roster. Loved his roster. Same thing here. He got 1 super stud running back, 1 super stud receiver, super stud tight end, and then he's just kind of grabbing the best players available. So his draft is going really well as well. Terry McLaurin is a really good steal at this value. Then I go back to Dustin. He was debating between Chark and McLaurin here. I'm pretty sure he was talking about looking at Tyler and Sutton, but he knew if he didn't pick them, they were gone. But he was looking at these 2 guys here. I think he was looking at Keenan Allen up here as well. But we didn't expect Keenan Allen to be falling this hard. His ADP's around there, but we know he's a better receiver than that. So he looked at these 2 guys and these 2 guys. He knew one of these 2 guys would be back. He was hoping, and he knew they wouldn't be. So when he picked Prescott and he still got Chark, I think he was in love with this pick. And I think this is an amazing pick. To me, the only other receiver I would have debated there is possibly Will Fuller. He was debating Devontae Parker as well. I'm not really too high on Parker that high. And same thing with Boyd. I think he thought about Boyd a little bit here, but then he went with the number 1 receiver in Jacksonville, DJ Chark, who made a beautiful record with Minshew last year. So I think that's a great pick. 3 solid running backs, top tier quarterback, and 2 good receivers. After that, another receiver here. Don't like the receivers and only 2 running backs, but hey, Julian Edelman, he's definitely a starting material. But once again, now you're playing a flex back as your starting back and a receiver as your flex. Here he went his 3rd receiver. Love these picks by him. Great receiver, really high upside receiver. He doesn't even need Fuller, and Fuller could be a breakout receiver. So he's got great potential in his flex spot on buys. He's got 3 good running backs. Beautiful draft. After getting a Tampa Bay running back that might not even be the starter, he grabs Tom Brady. 6th round, Tom Brady's way too high. Breeze, Allen, both better than him. Ryan's better than him. I would argue Carson Wentz and Stafford are better than Brady. But he's filling up the hype of the Tampa Bay this year, so he went with Tom. And then went with another Tampa Bay player and Gronkowski. So he's going to ride this train, and don't think it's going to be very well. So this draft is not going too well, in my opinion. He's going to be anchored by McCaffrey, which is a great pick. Godwin's a solid pick. Connor's a good pick, but Connor's had injury history. Godwin's been in a little injury. AJ Green's always hurt. Fournette's not even a starter. Tom Brady's old. Yikes. Gronk is like the 3rd tight end in the roster, I believe, maybe 2. Then Matt Ryan. So once you see quarterbacks, then people freak. So Matt Ryan went, Drew Brees went. So then Dustin came back. He's just kind of trying to get the best spot. And since his roster's kind of filled, he's trying to get a flex play. So he's looking for his 4th running back for the bye or if someone gets hurt. And J.K. Dobbins could be the starter very quick. Ingram's getting old. If he shows any sign of slowing down as a running back, Dobbins could be the guy in the number 1 running attack team. So this is a steal right here, in my opinion. Could he have got someone like Parker here? I think he was debating that. I think might have been a smarter move. We'll have to wait and see. But from what I see now, I think that's a great pick. Then Josh Allen went, to me, 5th, 7th best running back quarterback. So I think it's a steal getting him in as the 10th best running back quarterback. Jordan Howard, his thought process was here. Well, Jordan's a starter. One of these guys get hurt. I got a starter right away. I think it's a good pick. There we go. Too many running backs or receivers. Philip Lindsay goes next. Melvin Gordon and him are sharing carries. Lindsay is clearly the better back, in my opinion, this time. But he's one of those small guys like Eckler that teams just kind of get scared of and don't want to play him a lot. But I think you should just let him play. But they're not. They're going to split carries. So getting him here versus Gordon here, I'd way rather have Lindsay in the 7th and Gordon in the 4th. So it's a great pick. Tyler Boyd, probably could debate him anywhere in the 5th or 6th. Get him in the 7th. Amazing pick. Didn't need a receiver, though. It's kind of on hindsight. Devontae Parker here, another great receiver. Should have went higher, but once again, don't need receivers. Should have got a running back. Came to me. I needed a receiver. Brown to me, number 1 in Baltimore. Debated Landry. Let's see here. Who else I debated? I did debate Deebo Samuel because to me Deebo Samuel is the best receiver on the board. But Deebo Samuel was also hurt and wouldn't play the first few weeks. I needed someone that definitely could play week 1. And in hindsight, he did get injured. So he is out for the year, or at least the first 6 weeks, I believe. So in hindsight, thank God I didn't select him. So we'll see how this turns out. Jarvis Landry went. Good pick. Jones went. Good pick. Still probably should have a running back. He got a running back on the way back. But Peterson is a free agency. He did just sign with somebody else. So it's not too bad still. Filling out his roster. Best tight end on the board left. That's arguable. Probably Cook or Hurst would have been my pick here. Probably Hurst. Came to me. I had to get a receiver. Brandon Cooks, in my opinion, he's been the number 1, 2 wherever he goes. That was my thought process. Gallup, could argue is the number 1 in Dallas. Way more consistent than Cooper, but they got CeeDee Lamb too, so I really didn't want to touch Dallas receiver. Deontay Johnson, number 2 in Pittsburgh. I debated Deebo Samuel's here again, but I knew he was injured and I need someone to start week 1. There really wasn't much else here. John Brown did good for me last year, but this is definitely really high for his ADP. So I grabbed Cooks. Running backs went. Great pick here at Moss. Could be the starter. So his team definitely lining up to be great and has a lot of depth. Michael Gallup here, same thing. Great receiver, running back depth. In hindsight, I kind of wish I picked Gallup, but hey. Here, gets a receiver, need a receiver. Great pick, number 2 in Pittsburgh. They're always a good offense, especially with Big Ben back. If he still has anything in his tank, this could be a great pick. Then I got the Dustin. So in hindsight, not the best pick. But when we were here, this is kind of where he was targeting. He wanted to get the number 1 defense. So let's see who he could have got. He could have got Deebo Samuel. And at the time of the draft, before we knew what happened now, would be an amazing pick. And he probably should have picked Deebo. Obviously, Deebo got hurt. And in hindsight, it's a dumb pick. It would have been a dumb pick. But without him getting hurt, I think he should have picked Deebo. He also, I think, was debating Jamison Crowder here. Probably would have been high for Crowder. As you could tell, he could have got him on the way back. So, knowing that Deebo got hurt, I think this was a good pick, but I think he should have picked Deebo instead of Pittsburgh Steelers here. Because then he still has only 2 receivers, and since Galladay is hurt this week, he is hurting. Darius Geis here. Guy had no clue, wasn't even on a team, probably won't get to play all this year because he abused a woman. This guy must not have knew that. Deebo Samuel's here, 4th receiver. Already has his team set up. A lot of tight ends left. This is an amazing pick if he didn't get hurt. Mariko Harmon here. So I'm okay with this pick. I think there's better receivers here, especially when this is your 3rd receiver, probably your number 2 since Green will get hurt. I think this is a really bad pick. It's for his team. For where he went, it's fine. But I think you could have picked John Brown, Christian Kirk, Sterling Shepard, Mike Williams, Jameis Crowder. I think all of them would have been a better pick. Then he gets Kerryon Johnson. Kerryon can start in week 1. Everyone knows that Swift is a little banged up. So he can start Kerryon, Connor, and McCaffrey week 1. Let's see what Fournette does. So I like that pick, though. It's one of his better picks in the last 8 rounds. Jared Cook here needed tight ends to steal. I look at Jared Cook sometimes as early as the 7th round. I think he's the maybe 4th, 5th best tight end, probably behind Waller. So not that many went before him, but Higbee and Gronk. So I think that's a good pick here. People see stuff start going, they get a little sketchy. So then obviously this guy's like, oh crap, I need a defense. So he picks the Niners, and then comes back to Dustin, picks Antonio Gibson. I think this is a really good pick here. In hindsight, since Peterson got cut, it was a great pick. So he got 2 running backs here. Both can be starters really early. In hindsight, did he need a receiver? Yes, and he knows that he regrets doing that. But I don't think he's going to regret picking either one of these guys. I think maybe Prescott getting a receiver here or getting a receiver in Pittsburgh would have been better in hindsight. He would have had a slam dunk, arguably the best team in the league. But as long as his receivers stay healthy, Galladay already in question, he could have the best team still. So much depth at running back. He has 5 potential starting running backs on his team. That's freaking good. Ravens defense, 3rd best, sure. Hunter Henry, okay. Hayden Hurst, you need your tight ends. These are the ones you see here, the ones you like, so you might as well grab them. Jamison Crowder, another great pick by this team. Arguably had the best team in the draft, in my opinion. Another potential starter. Still, the running backs, yeah, wrong team. I was looking here. This guy is one of the best teams. This guy needs running backs. This starting running back week 1 is Tariq Cohen. Latavius Murray. He needed a running back, so at this round, amazing pick. Oh, Tevin Coleman, sorry, wrong back. He needed another running back here, so hey, sure. I wouldn't pick Tevin. I would have picked Armstead, Henderson, Breda, Mack, a lot of guys over him, but hey, he's maybe the number 2 in San Francisco, and this far in the draft, that's fine. Came back to me. Need receiver still. I was looking at Brown, Judy, Kirk, even Mike Williams. Went with CeeDee Lamb. Third receiver in Dallas last year. Third receiver was Randall Cobb. Cobb had 800 yards, I believe. CeeDee Lamb is miles away better than Randall Cobb. And they drafted him number 1. They're going to use him. In hindsight, I played Brandon Cooks week 1. Probably should have played CeeDee Lamb, but in my head, I wanted to see what he did after the first couple of weeks before I played him. Might be forcing to play him right away. I don't mind this pick. Could argue that I should have got like John Brown here, but we'll see. Armstead, good pick here. Need running backs. Henderson, good pick here. Running backs. He doubled up. He knew he was kind of hurting in running backs, so he just kind of grabbed the bunch that he saw. Sterling Shepard here. Receivers rated in that middle pack, so great pick. Came back to me. I wanted to grab another running back. Probably should have grabbed another receiver. I could have got John Brown here, Judy here. Kind of regret getting Marlon Mack, but kind of looked up there on my top of my roster and saw, David Johnson injury history. Montgomery's hurt now. What if he just tweaks his growing? I really need a running back that could start. Marlon Mack is the starter in Indy. Is Taylor better than Mack? Yes. Is Taylor going to be the starter over Mack? Yes. But I think they're still going to split carries. So my thought process here, worst case scenario, I lose 2 of my backs. I'd rather not play 3 receivers. I'd have a guy that can get me 12 touches a game, maybe a touchdown. So that was my thought process here. Hindsight, kind of wish I got a receiver, but I'm okay with it. Janu Smith, I didn't have him ranked in my tight end group, but really didn't know much about him, so I felt like that was a good pick here now that I look back. But since he has 2 tight ends, he needs some running backs. Christian Kirk, good. We're just kind of go through this fast now. Stafford, Wentz, you can argue these 2 guys ahead of these 2 guys, maybe these 3 guys. Wentz's issue, wishy-washy with injuries, but when he plays, he can be a top MVP candidate quarterback, just he can't play 16 games. I was debating picking him in this area instead of Russ. In hindsight, I kind of wish I got Stafford. If Stafford dropped this far, probably could have got a receiver here and got Stafford here. In hindsight, that would have been amazing. I mean, I could have got T.Y. Hilton and then got Stafford. I mean, my team would have looked a lot nicer. This is a great pick. John Brown, great pick in the 10th. Came back to my buddy. He needed a receiver. Jerry Jeudy. I think he was arguing Anthony Miller here. Might have been thinking Ruggs here. Jerry Jeudy was the right pick. Tight end, good. First kicker goes off the board. Once stuff starts to go, there's usually a bunch in a run. I kind of surprised only 3 defenses went right when they were going, but that's how it went. Tucker went. Mike Williams can be a potential number 1, especially if Keenan Allen goes down. Great pick this far down. Sonny Michel, starting running back technically, but injury. Buffalo, 4th best defense. Good pick here. Not going with the trend and getting a kicker. He got arguably the 2nd best defense in my opinion. Keyshawn Vaughn, one of the 4 tight ends. I think is the last running back left. He's got one here. Where's the other one? He got somewhere up here. I know I saw him a second ago. But anyway, it's fine. Got back to Dustin. The same thought process as before. He might regret this now, but he's a great kicker. He's going to score a lot of points. So he grabs his kicker, got his team filled out already. No, he doesn't have a tight end yet. James White, Slayton, Madison, Cook gets hurt, Steele. This guy's draft was freaking killing it. Duke Johnson injured now, but he's the 3rd running back here. He's got a scat back, a good, decent running back, better scat back, and another scat back. Pass happy league. I get his point, but this guy's hurt now. Not really. Anthony Miller, great pick here. Got to me. I needed a receiver. I needed a receiver that can start. Maybe I could have picked Deshaun Jackson. I like Rager, but not that early. Hindsight, I had to pick him. There was no one else here I could have picked. And next week I might need him now that Cook didn't look very well. Kicker goes off the board. I was targeting Zerline. I almost got him here. I was hoping he went back to me. Will Lutz went. Thank God. Henry Ruggs, and good luck. This team had a quarterback. I went with another quarterback. Ugh. And they picked Aaron Rodgers. I got my favorite kicker in the draft. Kicking the dome. Arguably going to be the best kicker this year. I think I did a good pick here, especially getting 2 rounds after and getting a better kicker, in my opinion. Kicker goes on a roll. Another quarterback. Needed a running back for sure. Could have got Boston Scott, Tony Pollard. There was guys he should have got here. Big Ben wasn't going to get drafted. Kicker, defense, kicker, receiver, kicker, tight end. Already had a tight end. Should have picked something else. Kicker, defense. About that. Receiver. Another quarterback. I don't get why people pick 2 quarterbacks, but hey. And I mean, if Drew Brees gets hurt, then you have someone that you probably could have gotten waiver wires. But hey. I got the Dustin. This is where I need his tight end. As you can see, he actually debated... I can't even pronounce this guy's name, Jaskeski here, but he was going to actually debate getting 2 kickers and getting him. So he got his guy, then the next guy went right after him. So that was pretty interesting. But I think Blake Jarwin's a steal. I think he's better than Smith. I think he's better than Hooper Ebron. I mean, you could argue everyone else is better than him above that. Maybe he's better than Higbee, but I mean, he got a top 10 talent. And the amount of targets Dallas gives the tight ends in the past, I mean, I think this could be a steal of the draft, in my opinion. Baker, okay, I guess. I mean, I think Daniel Jones is better. I think Minshew is better than Baker, but I get the hype. Sean Jackson, great pick here. In hindsight, I wish I would have picked him, possibly, because Deshaun's the starting number 1 receiver right away in Philly because of injuries. Kickers went Denver, Minnesota. I just grabbed Seattle because I'm a fanboy. And they've actually made quite a few transitions. They got one of the best safeties in the league. They got a couple more pass rushers, so I think their defense can be really improved. Saints, Chiefs, in hindsight, maybe I should have got the Bears. If I got them down here, I could have grabbed another player. I could have got him here. Wouldn't really change anything, because then kicker went, receiver went, I wouldn't have got Tate. Probably would have got Pollard here, and then the Seahawks again, so it didn't really matter. Boston Scott could be a really good pick. Sanders could be out for a while now, so Boston Scott could be a starting running back for a team that needed a starting running back. So this is actually a really good pick. I had to get the kicker, had to get a defense kicker. Daniel Jones, Josh Allen, 2 really good running quarterbacks. So if you're going to get 2, then he did a really good job filling that out. Dustin definitely needed a 4th receiver. Jalen Reagor, great pick. You won't need him the first couple of weeks, but he could turn out to be the number 1 in Philly. Bears defense this late. He already has a defense, so this kind of makes it iffy, but Bears should have went anywhere up here. Better than the Patriots, better than the Rams, Broncos. Yeah, I mean, I kind of messed up not getting the Bears. My biggest regret, probably. One of them. And then Minshew and Garoppolo. Minshew, I like that. Matt Ryan gets hurt old. This could be a good pick. All right, let's run through really quick again what changes I would have made it and what players I could have got there. I don't think my first 2 picks, I think I nailed them, to be honest. I'm not trying to brag or nothing, but I think getting him, I mean, I could debate could have got him in the other order, would have been smarter, because actually Josh Jacobs slightly higher ADP. So I could have got these in different order. Got Jacobs first and Edwards, but I got the 2 top running backs in this area for sure. I mean, they're probably better than Mixon too. So I mean, I got 2 of the top 7, 8 running backs. I mean, I got lucky that Jacobs fell. This luck. David Johnson here. Could have got Ingram. You could argue Ingram's better, but Johnson is the guy. That was my thought process. I already went through that, so I'm not going to run through it again. Came back here. I really like Cooper Kupp. I really like Juju. I really like Ridley and Lockett. Should I probably reach for them and not went for running backs? Maybe, but the real question is the rounds after that. So I think getting Montgomery here was fine, especially knowing injury here. But losing out on Cooper Kupp, who top 5 receiver when he's not hurt, might cost me. Mark Andrews on the way back. ADP wise, it's a steal. I still need a receiver. I could have got Stephon Diggs here, which I thought about. I really debated Keenan Allen there. Even though this is an ADP steal because he's a 3rd round tight end, I don't know. Definitely shouldn't have got Russ. I regret that right now. Could have got Keenan Allen right here. definitely should have done that. So Keenan Allen here, Marquise Brown here. Got back to here, I would have had 2 good receivers. I still would probably took Cooks here. Yeah. So Russ is my draft folly. I got down here. If I didn't take Russ, could have took Stafford. Probably what I should have done. Man, Stafford here. Looking back on it, Marlon Mack, just kind of grabbed him because he's the best available on the board. Same thing with Sanders. I need a receiver. No one better than him there. Kicker. I mean, maybe a little early for Zerline, but he's the 4th kicker off the board, and I feel like he's possibly number 1. I think Bucher and him are, you could argue there. Seahawks, yeah, okay, I should have got Bears, I think. Tony Pollard, I just got him because if Elliott gets hurt, starting running backs are always important. So in hindsight, Russ was my mistake. Look at Dustin just really quick for end this video. It's pretty long. Kamara would have got Henry. I think he debates. I think he knows he made a mistake here. We both got burnt, but you can't draft. You can't hate players in fantasy based on how they produced before. You got to look to the future. You got to look past things. It's really hard when you have a guy and he burns you, but he should have picked Henry here. Comes back to him. Chris Carson, slam dunk, great pick. Galladay, great pick. Mozart, great pick. Yeah, you could argue Dak Prescott too high here. He could have got Tyler Lockett, which is what I think he should have done. So I think both of us getting quarterbacks a little too high is a problem. Chark, slam dunk. Dobkins, slam dunk. If he didn't get Prescott, he could have got Josh Allen here. I bet you, he couldn't have got Josh Allen here. But if he didn't get Prescott, he probably wouldn't been able to get another player like Debo here. He could have had 4 good receivers. Probably would another. So Prescott and Dobbins. Dobbins, don't get me wrong, I think it's a great pick, but I think still if he would not got Prescott, he would not have pushed for a quarterback. He could have had Dobbins and Deebo Samuels. I mean, he could have had Tyler, and then he could have had Chark, and then he could have had Debo. And he would have, he'd have loved his receiving core and running backs. Or he could have got, I guess if he just got a receiver here, Dobbins is the pick regardless. So this is a good pick. Prescott's only if you want, but he could be the number 1 quarterback. So yeah, it's still a good pick, but I think Tyler would have been the pick here. Pittsburgh, we kind of talked him into this. He talked him into it. I kind of talked him into it. And in hindsight, he could have got Gibson here. Deebo Samuels, I think that's backwards, so he couldn't have got Deebo. Wait, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, he could have got Debo. Definitely should have picked Debo here. If he picked Debo Samuels here, he would have been happy. In hindsight, he wouldn't, but I think he was debating Crowder, though. That probably would have been a better pick. So reaching on non-receiver running backs really hurts you in hindsight, that's for sure. And we always tell ourselves not to do that, and we do it anyway. So this is Ryan, and this is a recap of our draft and how we did. I give both of us A-, B+. There's a couple picks we kind of messed up, mainly quarterbacks. Kind of screw you picking them high. But they're the top 6, and we got them, so we'll see. And this is Ryan Rutherford, Fantasy Footballers out. We will be doing same on before the games every week. We will do some top ranked players. So look out next Friday to see who I would suggest to play for fantasy football that week. And have a good night.